This is the engine doing all this. We have the world's attention right now. General Flynn, please brief us on the latest developments, where this is going, what we need to do as the American people, and what President Trump needs to do, sir.
Yeah, Alex, thanks very much. And I'll tell you, just for your audience and for many that'll listen to this, the only reason why we're able to break through what is happening, break through this what is essentially this color revolution that's been going on for the better part of a decade now, is because of voices like yours, and there are other influencers out there who got it a long time ago and have continued to beat this drum. So we need to keep doing this because it is working. We are being effective in getting the word out. Now, I will say, in fact, the last time I think it was on your show, I kind of laid out, the essence of the color revolution and the stages that we are in, the steps that are being taken against us to be able to continue to undermine, the presidency of Donald J. Trump. Trump is now starting to really understand the depth and the extended period of time that we have been that this revolution has been ongoing. Others have talked about a counter-revolution. I've labeled this as a form of the CCP's unrestricted warfare, which is essentially the conduct of a war without rules. I don't know what Patrick Burns is going to talk about. I appreciate the fact that Patrick's been out there very publicly, and I've said this in different places, and I know Patrick's book. I helped him with the movie that he put out. Patrick worked for the United States government for decades, and then he was asked to do corrupt things, and he basically said, "I'm not going to do that." And then he turned the tables on people inside the government, and maybe that's what Patrick is going to be talking to you about. I hope it's that and more. I mean, many of the things that I'm now concerned about. And one of the things that I'm concerned about, and this has to do with Venezuela, I'm really concerned that we might see, because there's competing camps that are trying to get Trump's ear on which direction we should take in Venezuela. Never mind, what we're learning about Russia and Ukraine and what's happening in Gaza. We can talk about that if you want. But what I'm concerned about, and I talked to a great friend of mine over the weekend we talked about the Gulf of Tonkin false flag that got us into the depths of the Vietnam War, and so at a certain point in time, everything that's going on down in Venezuela, down in the Gulf of America now, we'll start to feel like we're being drawn into something that we don't necessarily want to be in. What we really want is what do I want? I want Maduro to be told, leave, get the hell out of Dodge, and then allow the Venezuelan people to bring in basically the government that they voted for, in the likes of a couple of different people. And they, from everything I understand, they have a really good plan to be able to execute if Maduro is out of there. What we have to be, and this is really for President Trump and his team, but for the American people to understand, we have got to be careful that we don't get drawn into something and a false flag is created. False flags are this is something that our intelligence community, particularly the CIA, has done a lot of over many years to draw us into wars that are unnecessary. We're in Eastern Europe, because it was unnecessary that it happened in 2014 during the Maidan Revolution. The CIA and the State Department were a big part of that under the Obama regime. The Biden regime, all they did was exacerbate the problem. We wouldn't have any of the death and the killing that's ongoing over there. We wouldn't be where we were had Donald J. Trump been able to stay in power during the stolen election of 2020. And so, that mess is still going on, but I'm really concerned about what's happening in our own neighborhood. What I don't want is the Chinese, I don't want the CCP to own beachfront property here in our hemisphere, right? Beachfront property in front of the United States of America, which is essentially what they do now. So and I know I'm kind of honing in on Venezuela in this case, but I'm using it as an example of these sort of revolutions and this arena of unrestricted warfare that we are involved in. Now, all that said, I have been saying for a long time the infiltration of principally the CCP and mainly the CCP, but there are also elements. You can go back to, you can go back 40 or 50 years, but the infiltration into our government by Cuban elements, certainly by Venezuelan elements, but the Venezuelan elements are more tactical. They're, the Tren de Aragua that we've learned about over the last, this past year. Those are elements that have been creeping into our society, not since Donald Trump came into office or even during the last 4 years. They've been coming into the United States of America for a couple of decades. And they operate tactically to run these different drug cartels that have been operating in the streets of America. The Cubans, however, working with the Russians initially and now the Chinese, they've been infiltrating inside of our government for a long, long time. And so when I say infiltrating inside of our government,
we're talking about Mayor Bass of LA is an admitted Cuban intelligence asset.
Yeah. Oh, there's people in prison right now that were spying for the Cubans. They're in prison right now. They were closely tied to people inside of our government. So this infiltration is not just some Cuban that's sitting inside of the State Department or inside of the intel community. It's people who they recruit and then they get to work for them. And I'm not talking about, this many. I'm talking about lots. I'm talking about 10 times that or more, maybe 1,000 times that, because it's been going on for so long.
Roger Stone, is married to a Cuban lady and is deep in the Cuban community. He says like a third or more of Republican officials, including some in Congress that say they're conservative, are on the payroll for decades of the Cuban intelligence.
Yeah, it's very, very important to understand that. And so, how deep does that go? How high up in our administration, this current administration, never mind the left, how high up does it go? Does it go to the, the undersecretary level? Does it go to a secretary level? These are the kinds of things that our government has to be dealing with and looking at. And I know President Trump is smartening up to all of this. He understands all of this. What he is learning again as president the second time is how difficult it is to break through these cement walls. These aren't glass barriers. These are cement walls that are thick, and they got barbed wire inside of the cement. It's that hard to break through the Department of Justice, the U.S. intelligence community, particularly the CIA, and other elements in our government. I mean, even in the Department of War, there's subversives operating in there that have been.
And that's where I was going briefly. 100. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the admiral, they said Hegseth told the truth. They called, said we're clear to fire. He said do it. He went on to his next thing. He wasn't there. He didn't watch. They talked to the judge advocate generals. They said hit the boat again. That's standard procedure.
Yeah.
All of that was a lie. So it wasn't just a leak. It was classified fake leak to undermine the president and the Secretary of Defense. That's sabotage. That's treason. I saw Hegseth, who I think is a good guy overall, very smart in ways. Yeah. I saw him saying, whoever the Wall Street Journal sources or whoever the Washington Post sources are, Washington Post, suck. No, they don't suck. They lied on purpose. Part of the whole don't follow the illegal order narrative for this soft coup. So we need to find out who did that, and they need to be charged with serious crimes. Correct, General?
I mean, 100%. I mean, this is a period of an age. Even though they tried to physically assassinate Donald Trump, and he needs to be very careful. The director of the Secret Service, they need to protect that man. I mean, like they should all the time. But what they do and what they're trying to do to Pete Hegseth, and frankly, they tried to do it to Tulsi before. Whenever there's bad news for them, and particularly the seditious six, what they try to do is they then try to assassinate by narrative. And this is a tactic of the left to assassinate by narrative. I mean,
it was a total lie. It was a total lie. Like Trump saying the KKK are fine people. He said they're horrible people. They just lie.
Right. So I mean, they will continue to lie. They will continue to target those of us whose voices matter. Those of us who are standing up and standing our ground. You're one of them. And your great audience that has continued to support you, and thank God that they have, because we need your voice. We need other voices that are out there. You're about to have one, I guess when Patrick comes in, maybe today or tomorrow. But I mean, we need to have these voices right now who understand the geopolitical environment that we are in, as well as the homeland security environment that we need. And right now, there's a balance that Donald J. Trump is trying to do. He's trying to balance everything that the American American national security needs to make sure that we stay on top of overseas, right? and trade and all this stuff and all the different wars that are going on, the reconstruction efforts.
But if he doesn't go after the deep state, it's not going to matter.
It will not matter one iota. That's the second part of this thing, is this homeland security environment. And I'm not talking about securing the borders or getting rid of all these illegals. I'm actually talking about basically getting in and revolutionizing our government. I mean, reforming our government, getting inside of the components of our government that actually are doing damage to his ability to be able to lead this country.
And he has the bully pulpit, as you said 2 weeks ago. As you said 2 weeks ago, he needs to address the nation. He's done it in little ways and through his surrogates. A week after you said that, I saw the surrogates go out. It was confirmed. They listened to you. They said this is true. They had a CIA briefing, literally telling the media this. So that's a huge breakthrough. But it's not a one-off. It's got to be the war drum of, we have these criminal group inside that's generating all these attacks. It's the mothership firing all the torpedoes. You got to take it out. So I saw you on Bannon. Can you elaborate on this? I know Trump wanted you back. I know you could do a lot on the outside, but you said, no, I'm out of this. And even when I tried to get you to run for president when Trump wasn't sure he was, you said, no, I think we're going to draft Trump. But I saw you say, won't you elaborate, that you're ready to be brought back in. And I'm telling you, there's nobody as good as you, General. And I know you're like George Washington. You want to be at the farm. I know you're out in the country fighting the tyranny. But, I mean, is it time for us to really pressure Trump? And where would he bring you in?
Well, in terms of going back into the government, number one, President Trump understands that I have remained loyal to him, but not loyal to a fault. He knows if I disagree with him, I'll let him know that, and I have. He's been very supportive, and he's working his tail off. I mean, the man is now, he's going to go around the country and basically rally until 2026 to make sure that we stay in the House. So he's got to do that. I mean, I am in different roles right now that I play, so to speak, on behalf of trying to continue to protect this country from being destroyed. And I want people to understand that this is not about, the left and the right, the Democrat and Republican, conservatives and liberals. This is about a completely different ideological underpinning that the left wants in this country. And what is most concerning to me, and they call it the Red-Green Alliance, I call it the axis of resistance, is this coming together of communists and Islamists in this country, as that are not just showing up in mosques or showing up.
They sign up with the Democrats for every form of fraud.
Everything, and inside of our Congress right now. I mean, when they did a recent vote on making sure that we didn't allow socialism in our government, it was like 92 of them voted against it. Like that they voted for the idea that socialism was okay. So how many do we have? I used to say about 25%. Maybe it's more like 50%, and it's not just the Democrats. I actually think that there's probably some Republicans in name only when you start looking at voting records. So the bottom line here is whatever I end up doing, I'll continue to do what I'm doing, which I have a passion.
Oh, you're very effective right now. I just saw you say, I mean, we can play the clip. You're just like, well, yeah, okay. They asked me to serve, I will.
Yeah. I mean, if I serve anyway, if the president came and said, hey, Mike, I'd like to have you come back into the government in some capacity. How best do you think that you can help? And I have I have a large network of people around the world, as well as right here in this country.
What you have is the 360, 35,000 full spectrum thing. You need to be commanding the task forces to go after the deep state. Like we had Doge with Elon, they should bring him back. We need you in there as a national security roving czar to working with Ed Martin to go after the deep state.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, I mean, I think I said on Steve Bannon the other day that, they would shit their pants if he brought me in as the czar to basically, get after the deep state. I looked at a video this morning, Alex, of me on Al Jazeera back in 2015 this morning. And in that video, somebody sent it to me and said, man, you ought to play this one again. I might post it on my X site later
Please
today.
do. We'll play it, or send it to me, please.
Yeah, but in that video, I was talking to, it was on Al Jazeera, and I was doing a debate with a guy, the host of the Al Jazeera at that time. And I was talking about the rise of ISIS. I was talking about the threat to our homeland. I was talking about Syria and the Free Syrian movement that we now, I mean, like everything that I said, it's about probably a 3-minute clip. It's all happened. That was 10 years ago. Everything that I said, and the guy was like, at the time he's calling me a conspiracy theorist. Really? He's saying, no, how can, you're wrong. But I didn't go on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. I went on Al Jazeera. I went into the bowels of hell, really, because Al Jazeera has been a mouthpiece for these terrorist networks around the world.
And by the way, 1 week before the terror attack in D.C. on the Guard, you said in the next few months, look for the jihadis to start hitting. Now it's been confirmed that he was in communication very close, working with the guy that tried to suicide bomb Fort Worth. So this is, and now it's come out that that the shooter in D.C., he's on video. He's not a suspect. He's on video shooting the Guard. That he was being commanded by some group.
Yeah, and the media, the big media, didn't want to tie those two guys together. In fact, they didn't even want to report on the potential bombing suspect in Fort Worth at all. They wanted that one to die because they didn't want to all of a sudden go, shoot, these guys, what other coordinated attacks are being planned? I mean, we're getting ready to go into the holiday season here. And this
we
is
had groups connected to him shoot up the baseball field and shoot the coach. Exactly. This is really. So are they
very real?
Are they probing or? I mean, now you got a lot. What's happening?
Well, last thing I think is it's complexity, right? What we're looking at is cause chaos, cause a level of complexity that this government, Donald J. Trump's government, has a difficult time handling. In addition to all the other problems that they have, and that is a form of warfare. It is an unrestricted form of warfare. Yep, fight them economically. Yep, fight them politically. Fight them, but. Fight them in the information domain with whatever they got, their control over TikTok and other social media platforms, but do physical things as well. Things like, railroads and buses and trains and bombs at Fort Worth, or shoot a couple of National Guardsmen inside of Washington, D.C. I mean, these are not things that are just made up shit, right? This is stuff that actually has happened. And what we've got to make sure of is that in this White House, who knows about that? Who's actually staying on top of it? Is it some small cell that's briefing the president of the United States? I don't think so. And that's where a guy like me plays in. Or is it our CIA, or is it our intelligence community that we're spending, God knows, 80, 100 billion
dollars? Isn't it encouraging, and I've confirmed this, that they did send a group of CIA to tell Fox, Newsmax, and a bunch of others, hey, this is a rogue CIA group. This is all an attempt to overthrow the country, which we already know is true. That shows that Trump's starting to get real traction, which we haven't seen any in the CIA from Ratcliffe. I mean, that's encouraging. That's at least the CIA fighting with itself.
Yeah, and I think it's because of pressure by the president. I don't think it's because they've done it on their own. I don't think Ratcliffe did it on his own. I think the president put his finger in Ratcliffe's chest and said, get this shit fixed right away and start doing more. And make sure that if
Ratcliffe's exactly telling him wants to hear, oh, yes, sir, we know it's the rogue CIA. Oh, well, I'm fixing it. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, what reforms have we seen in that organization? I'm not talking about marginal reforms. I'm not talking about moving boxes around on a line and block chart. I'm talking about whole cloth reform. I mean, there's been some great ideas about what to do about it, but we haven't seen that, and that kind of, I mean, these are big issues. But at the same time, I don't mean to cut you off.
You've got to go soon. I keep you for 10 hours. I've got so many questions. But real quick, as you mentioned this, and hey, maybe I want to talk about you talk about what you want to talk about. What Trump coming out and saying, Zelensky, you're basically a dictator. Ukraine's not a democracy. You're almost 2 years in after no election time, because he wouldn't even read the peace plan. And so that's a good sign. So where are we going there? Are we forced to pull out of NATO because they're committed to go to war with Russia, but they can only do it with us? Well, what's happening there, sir?
Yeah, I posted the other day that I thought that basically we've seen the end of NATO. I don't think that the reason why NATO was created was post World War II, and that time frame is gone. It is no longer a defensive chartered organization. They want to go to war with Russia. That is total bullshit. We have got to seriously consider at least threatening it, and certainly considering pulling out of NATO. Now that's going to get all kinds of cards and letters into your show, and certainly death threats to me. But this is the kind of nonsense. And the European Union is NATO. NATO is the European Union. And the European Union leadership, what they do is they get together with Zelensky recently. There's a great picture. They're all telling Zelensky, hey, keep fighting, keep going, because it's money. There's a military, industrial, and security state complex in Europe, just as there is in the United States of America. And both of them are working in collusion to maintain the boogeyman of Russia. And all that's happening is Russia is falling further and further under the umbrella of China. And the more Russia falls under the umbrella of China, then we have a formidable enemy. We have a formidable adversary.
And it's supercharging
major nuclear powers.
Exactly. It's supercharging BRICS, all of it, which was always U.S. policy to not have them come together. I mean, well, what you're saying is correct U.S. proven doctrine. Why are the globalists going against against the West's interest, even though they are fighting with the Chinese? They're only thinking one-dimensionally.
No, yeah, no, you know, again, unrestricted warfare, war without rules, right? So the globalists, what's happening is the globalists, and they are a strong bloc. BRICS is part of it, you know, and you go India, China, wait a second, these guys are fighting each other.
So you're saying the globalists are really doing this to actually empower China?
Oh, in a huge, huge way. I mean, in a huge way. They see China as the rising star for this coming century, and this sort of the globalist leadership bloc wants to work very closely with them.
And notice how the EU is completely aligned with China now while they attack Russia, knowing it's driving Russia into China's arms. The Russians have got to be sophisticated enough to know that, right?
Yeah, and another comment about the European Union and, you know, countries like the United Kingdom and France. These are not, people go, oh, they're falling apart, they're falling to this. No, that's exactly what they want. So if you have, you know, 10% or 12% popularity rating in France for Macron or the UK for Starmer, I mean, they don't care. They're going to continue to move in the direction that they have been directed to move in. They're not working for their people. They're working for the globalist cabal that still emanates out of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. We have got to continue to beat that drum as well.
GeneralFlynn.com. I'm going to twist your arm unless you've got a 2-minute break. Just do 5 more minutes to put bookends on this. This is so important. We really appreciate you joining us. We'll be right back with hour number 2.